About 3 years ago, I started the CirclingSeattleSports podcast, just a little podcast, and we talked strictly about Seahawks games, and then it really started to build from there. And now we're the only outlet here in Seattle that covers every single professional sports team in Seattle as equally as the next. So, taking that all into consideration, getting all of that out of the way, it's funny because it's a great segue as we move into our Seahawks segment, which another tough one here. I know that we were looking for some good news as we headed into this rivalry game. It was going to be a tough game, as all division games are, but this 49ers team is stacked with talent top to bottom, and that was displayed throughout the course of this game. So December 15th versus the San Francisco 49ers, Thursday Night Football. The Seahawks were wearing their action green tops and their navy blue bottoms. Seattle would lose that one 13-21 in just a tough game. Seattle played well to an extent, but some mistakes throughout the course of the game helped San Francisco ultimately come out with the victory here. Really quickly, we'll take a look at the inactive list for this game. Offensive tackle Jake Curran, running back Tony Jones Jr., running back DJ Dallas, defensive tackle Al Woods. So Woods is still dealing with an injury. And then quarterbacks Artie Burns and Trey Brown. So interesting to see Brown just a few weeks relatively after he had been seen as, good to go, not able to go in this one in a key matchup, or maybe it was a healthy one. So for offensive player of the game, I went with Geno Smith. Geno had a pretty solid game statistics-wise, completing 31 of his 44 attempts on the day, 268 passing yards, one passing touchdown to Noah Fant, and 18 rushing yards. Just compared to the general state of the offense as a whole in this game, there wasn't too much going on. I mean, there were some solid receiver numbers. There was no real running game to speak of, unfortunately, because Seattle didn't really run the ball that often. Kenneth Walker was back in this game, but he really wasn't able to establish himself. Funny enough, considering this is the Pete Carroll offense, but no, he wasn't able to establish himself enough. There was no running game going, and that 49ers front seven is tough as it is. So that played a factor as he had only 47 yards. The leading receiver was Tyler Lockett with 68 receiving yards. At the end of the day, going with Geno. Geno's been a model of consistency for this team, and it's hard to ask of much more. At the beginning of the season, we didn't expect this Seattle team. I think I picked Seattle to win 7 games. We're here now, which, sure, great. But at the end of the day, happy with the sort of level of consistency he's shown, the pocket presence he's been able to display, while also being a leader, being able to grow, and showing off a 90.9 QB rating in this game. That wasn't too bad. On the defensive side of the ball, I went with Quandre Diggs. The free safety had 7 total tackles, 3 solo tackles, 1 pass deflection, and 1 quarterback hit. And he did drop an interception that hit him right between the numbers, which is a key factor in this game, and we'll talk about that right now. So, we look at this game. We go back to week 2. We go back to week 2 when these two teams matched up down in San Francisco. Well, Santa Clara is where Levi Stadium is. Seattle is coming off of their week 1 win against the Broncos. The offense looked a little good in the Denver game, so there were questions of, maybe this offense is going to be good. That didn't start in week 2. Seattle was grounded, and the only real offensive points that they got were on a Tariq Woolen kick return, blocked field goal return, my apologies. And the offense just seemed directionless. They seemed like they weren't headed in any sort of particular way. Couldn't get much going on at all. And again, this 49ers defense is stacked with talent and has been for years. John Lynch, as their general manager, has done a great job. I wish he would have stayed in the broadcast booth and away from the 49ers, because he's been a big factor in the reason that they're such a good contending team. It's not like we can do much about that now. To get to this game, you obviously had to improve from that week 2 matchup. You generally build to win games in your division. And it's funny enough, because the 49ers are built like the Seahawks used to be, with that really strong, really physical, flying to the ball defense. Seattle had no run game in this. There was no no calling card on defense. It could have been an interception that hit Quandre right in the chest. You're losing nose tackles to injury left and right. Tyler Lockett now goes down with an injury that we'll get into when we get to the injury news segment. There's no real easy path to the playoffs, considering that you need generally outside help to get into the postseason. They're generally getting punched in the mouth, and there's not much time left in order for them to start punching back. It's great to get Ken Walker back from injury, but at the end of the day, in this one, you didn't run the ball enough. It really felt like, I believe he had 14 attempts. I can look. He only had 14 attempts. If we look at the first few drives of Seattle, punt, field goal, fumble, punt, and that's the end of the half. That's your first half. That just can't happen. 3 points in the first half would be fine. But 3 plays, you go 3 and out on your second possession of the game, and then the 49ers are able to score a touchdown, 86 yards. Just, it's again, you're playing an offense with George Kittle. I know that they're dealing with some injuries right now. They still have Christian McCaffrey. Brock Purdy's in there, and Brock Purdy was a little bit banged up going into this game. He was kind of seen as somebody who they weren't sure about on the injury report. He still played in this game, and he was good. I'm going to say it. He was good. A fumble in this game right before the half by Travis Homer on just a little dump off caused by, I believe it's Trey Greenlaw. Trey Greenlaw gave the 49ers the ball in Seattle territory on a nice return. 40-yard return right before the half. So the 49ers get the ball back at the beginning of the second half too. So for them to turn that ball over right before half, you're looking for some points. You're only down by 4 points, and you want to limit or negate the chance that the 49ers are going to get the ball before the half, because they're already getting it just, and then to have that fumble, just bad. And then the 49ers scored in 2 plays out of the second half on a George Kittle 54-yard touchdown off of blown coverage. It was a 3 deep blue, and Tariq Woolen missed his assignment, I believe is what he said. He owned up to it to Pete Carroll after the game. A couple of missed tackles. Quandre Diggs missed a tackle. Cody Barton missed. I don't even know if you can call it a tackle attempt, honestly. And that was just ugly. Seattle responded with a field goal. Then it was a bunch of punts. Seattle would get a touchdown with 1 minute and 25 remaining, but they couldn't stop the 49ers. Final drive to get to end the game. There was a bad challenge by Pete Carroll as Brock Purdy slid for a first down, and it was a frustrating game, considering the fact that your offense was so stagnant and that your defense was put in some tough positions because they did play a relatively good game. That 54-yard George Kittle touchdown after halftime wasn't a good example of that. And Quandre Diggs getting hit with in the chest with an interception that could have given Seattle the ball in better field position for a drive obviously affects that as well. But the offense had to be better in this one. It simply had to be better. Kenneth Walker gets 12 carries, averages 3.9 yards per carry. You run the ball a total of 14 times this game. 44 attempts for Geno. Geno, I talked about his pocket presence, and he's been just a model of consistency for this team. But I don't think this is a Seahawks offense that should run the ball. Should pass the ball 44 times in a game. I just don't. It was a frustrating game, and now it's tough to see where you go from this point in the season. You've got 3 games left. It starts next week. Well, this upcoming week, I apologize, on Christmas Eve in Kansas City against this Chiefs team. And you could feel good about it. The Chiefs were pushed to overtime by the Houston Texans. But there's a lot of talent on that offense, and I don't know how that defense, how the Seahawks defense is going to be able to hold on against that offense. Patrick Mahomes, Jerick McKinnon's been playing well. Isaiah Pacheco has been playing well out of the backfield in a sort of gadgety type of role. They still have, the likes of Mecole Hardman, Travis Kelce. Who's going to cover Travis Kelce on the Seahawks defense? So it's not going to be an easy contest, but maybe the fact that the Texans push them to the limit makes you feel a little bit better about that. We're going to look at a quick sort of roster move over the past week. On the 15th, the team elevated running back Godwin Igwebuike from the practice squad. He got some run returning kicks, as you can see in that photo, and I believe he did the same thing. He was used in the same role this week. So that's just about the only roster move that took place over the past week. We look over to injury-related news, and this is when some things pop up. On the 12th, there was an Al Woods update before this game. He doesn't have an Achilles tear, fortunately, but it's an old injury, and it wasn't ruled out that he could play on Thursday. You saw that when we went over the inactives list, he wasn't active for that game. So we go to injuries sustained against the 49ers, and this is what things get ugly. This team, Seattle's already been banged up throughout the year. Ken Walker has dealt with injury. Rashad Penny's out for the year. DJ Dallas was out in this game. We already went over the sort of running back issues that they've had. It's, as I've talked about with the nose tackles, the nose tackles have been banged up. Jamal Adams is out for the year. So we get to the injuries sustained against the 49ers. Defensive tackle Brian Monet left the game in the first quarter with a knee injury. He has a season-ending knee injury, and will require surgery to repair that. So no Brian Monet. Middle linebacker Jordan Brooks left the game in the third quarter and did not return with a neck injury, and Pete Carroll did not have any clear indication on what that means. Neck injuries, Seahawks and neck injuries. It's not a good track. You look at Chris Carson and Cam Chancellor. You don't want to get ahead of yourself right now. But that's not a good sign. When any neck injury is not a good sign, and especially when there's no clear indication on what that is. So still sort of hoping to get positive news about Jordan Brooks. Tyler Lockett. We talked about Tyler Lockett last week with Walter Payton Man of the Year. Tyler Lockett broke a bone in his finger. Lockett himself said he was going to try to be back in 2 weeks. Ian Rappaport said that he could potentially only miss one game. Pete Carroll didn't sound so optimistic. Lockett is having surgery on that finger and has a chance to get back quickly based on early feedback. But considering the fact that there are only 3 weeks left in the season for the Seahawks that are guaranteed, it's not a good look so far. Looking at the Seahawks wide receiver position, obviously there's DK. Marquise Goodwin has played well throughout the course of the season. You'd love for this to be a chance for a guy like D. Eskridge to step in, but we've talked about that before too. So it's not a good look, just considering the fact, you look at Tyler and that injury, and Tyler, again, I talk about Geno being a model of consistency. Look at Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett has been a go-to guy, not only on the field, but in the locker room and as a human being. So, you look at all of that, and it's really tough to see him suffer an injury. And with Jordan Brooks and a neck injury, what does that mean for him? Let alone the Seahawks, but a neck injury, impacts your life as a whole. So we're going to try to move over to league news here. December 13th, Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray tears his ACL. So the Arizona quarterback is out for the rest of the season. Things continue to be tough down for the Cardinals. Odell Beckham will likely sign with the team in 2023. Several teams believe that OBJ will wait to join a new team in order to be the prize of the free agent wide receiver class. On the 14th, it was announced that the Broncos are planning a $100 million stadium upgrade package. The Broncos Empower Field at Mile High Stadium will undergo a significant upgrade ahead of next season. Also on the 14th, Cardinals GM Steve Keim will step away. Keim is taking an indefinite health-related leave of absence from the team. There's some speculation about this relating to Hard Knocks. I'd talk about it more, but we'd have to do another show on that. And then on Saturday, not Sunday, we have Saturday games going on now as we hit the late part of the season. The largest comeback in NFL history took place. So down at the half, 33 points. the Minnesota Vikings stormed back to beat the Indianapolis Colts 39-36 in overtime. They also secured the NFC North division with that victory. Just 33 points, man. It's you look at two of the biggest comebacks in this game. Matt Ryan was a quarterback for the Falcons in the 28-3 Super Bowl blown lead, and now Matt Ryan was the quarterback in the 33-point blown lead for the Colts here in this game. It was funny in the Kraken locker room. They had practice on Saturday, was there for that, and you could hear a bunch of the guys talking about this game. Will Borgen's a Minnesota native, and he was screaming, "What are you doing?" During this game. So I'm sure he's happy that ended the way that it did. Enough talking about the other teams in this league. We look at our Seahawks upcoming, as I mentioned. The Seahawks now sit at a 7-7 regular season record. They are second in the NFC West and currently in the playoff hunt. They are on the outside looking in. They're looking in from the glass window, and who knows if they'll be allowed in. It's up to them, truly. Their next matchup is December 24th at the Kansas City Chiefs with a 10 a.m. Pacific time start. That is a Saturday, and yes, that is a 10 a.m. start. So Seattle going to be on the road, probably in cold conditions, and starting on an early morning game for us. So we're going to have to see about that and see what's going to go on here because it's going to be a big game.